Hello everybody, it's me, Rotbird. And, well, if you were around in the 2010s of the internet, you're probably aware of this fellow. That's right, Slenderman. And his many, many different types of fan games. And also fan projects. Wink wink, nudge nudge. And, well, today we're going to be covering one of them. And doing a retake of them. That's right, we're talking about Swamp Sim. That's right, baby, we got Shrek. Wait, what are you saying? Slendytubbies? You mean that series that peaked in the second one and then became an action game for some reason? In the third? Or in like the later parts of it, it just became like this action shooter thing to appeal more to kids? Now, where did I hear that from? Nah, just kidding. Resident Evil, not quite with the whole kids, but it definitely did degrade. At least the third one wasn't, dog shite, so. I mean, the analogy kind of falls apart there, but eh. Anyways, we're not doing that. We're sticking to Shrek. Ugh, fine. But only because I like you all so much. Alright, let me go digging around here. Alright, yep, okay. Oh, yep, we got all that junk. Look at all this stuff. Okay, oh, okay, we got all stuff together? Yeah, that's good, ooh, yeah, that's a good PowerPoint. Let's get right into it. So, we all know Teletubbies, oh, Po, oh, Dipsy, Laa Laa, Tinky, Winky, that sort of stuff. When one day, out of the blue, their ever-lovable Custard just suddenly stopped supply. In this universe, those little toast things don't exist. It's a sad day. I actually would have wanted to eat one of those. They look scrumptious. And, well, to say the least, the Tubbies didn't quite take that so well. With the exception of Po, who ended up just straight up going, well, not seeing my style, I'm out of here, and goes over out the mainland. And since, for some reason, they didn't feel that compulsion to stay within, a point that will be explained later. And Po just sort of integrated into normal society. Until eventually, a company representative, who I didn't make a logo for, so I'm just using Pressure's Urban Shade logo, who ended up saying that they're planning to go back to the mainland to try getting some well, would you guessed it, custard samples, as it turns out that the announcer guy, he actually had some stashes of it. And they're apparently on suspicion for being highly addictive. Yeah, the announcer in this universe is Heisenberg. And they just want to run some tests on it, collect a few samples, go through the mainland. And, most likely all the Tubbies will starve by now, so there's no frets. And then they totally don't want to use it for their own use. Totally. And with a little bit of coercion... Wait, coercion? What? Coercion? Coercion? And Po finally agrees and goes on a trip with a few other grunts. Going through the outskirts until suddenly, boop, boop. Yeah, they get flipped. And who's the only survivor from the wreckage? Oh, that's right. Right, in this version of the game, you play as this ever-lovable Tubby. Look at you, all beaten up and stuff. And so without anything much to do, you continue the mission. Eventually coming across the first. Pre-Laa Laa. Generally not that different from the original one, so, blind, whatnot. But in the design, it looks a lot more beat up and brutalized rather than being the brutalizer. Or in a way, you could say it looks more like the sort of frail and much more disturbing version of Lala from Slendytubbies 2 and Slendytubbies Free. Man, I'm just glazing 2 at this point, man. I need to stop glazing 2. Also, I just realized that this bit's like ever so slightly, the line art's here ever so slightly brighter than the rest of the thing because of the wires. But I'm too lazy to go back and fix it, so man, we'll live with it. And we see firsthand what happens if you get caught. Yep, just dead. And dumping the body aside. And then enters the main gameplay loop of the game. Until eventually you collect all the custards and go to your little exit point. And you end up accidentally alerting Lala, who charges at you. You end up tripping over a weird thing, which ends up triggering something. And before you know it, Lala just got crushed by a Brock. And, well, I just walk away. And a certain figure comes in seeming response to the trap. Now you end up entering the swamplands. Yeah, you probably already know who this is if you've played any bit of Slendytubbies, especially 2. Jesus Christ! This is just pretty much Slendytubbies 2 all over again. And finally that little ring thing comes into handy, cause Spear just narrowly missed. And we finally see the threat of this stage. Hunter Dipsy. Slow and Lundering? What? Well, I mean, he uses spears, which are made with a knife, so, it's a lot. Dipsy's from London. And, hoi, bruv. I'm gonna shank you, ye? Oh well. Hunter Dipsy, slow and lumbering, partially blind instead of fully blind, so, you know, they won't be able to see you over a distance, but they definitely will be able to see you if you're decently close. And because of the fact they're a little bit on the slower side because of certain wounds, they instead opt to use traps and tools to capture their victims. Additionally using a bit of stealth, both by like hiding in bushes and whatnot. But due to how vulnerable it is with stuff like its brain poking out, which to be honest was the only way I could figure out how to implement that whole headless thing that Dipsy has. And also, I'm not giving it a chainsaw. I know that it sounds cool with the whole... I mean, I like Chainsaw Man, for crying out loud. I enjoy a good chainsaw, but... I mean, I somewhat incorporated it with it, you know. If Dipsy was smart enough to use a chainsaw, then they're probably smart enough to figure out how to set up a trap. Happy to use tools, so... You know, gameplay loop, and this time, traps everywhere. And after collecting all your little custards, and all the traps being set off, you run off as Dipsy fails to try catching up. Something catching him. And as you wander through the good old forest, you see custards. Although, mysteriously, if you have taken some notes, you'd realize that both of the previous victims of the generic, the good old generic tubbies that we got going on, who just act as a simple little tutorial bit. It'd either be being a little prop that gives a little bit of environmental storytelling, or just straight up gets ripped apart in front of you, is seemingly absent. Because now, we're against the apex predator. Behold, Apex Tinky Winky. Can't take that seriously. Ugh. This one's fast and hyper-aggressive. This gets also enhanced if you stare at it for too long, which is in fact a reference to Tinky Tank, because, well, you know, gorilla. Well, if you stare at one for too long, then they'll get a little pissy, so... And this one, unlike the previous two, has actually good sight. Wow. Now, and other super senses, charging right at you if it gets even the slightest connotation that you exist. But it's, at least, it doesn't have a very high attention span. Relatable. And will lose interest quickly. Relatable if it loses line of sight. Additionally, it's, pretty loud. I'm keeping the screaming. The screaming's just iconic. We gotta keep that in. So after doing all that, you finally end up losing Tinky Winky for now. And when you come across a bunker. And so, without anything else to do, you meander inside, finding a rather harrowing sight of a black Teletubby, blue Teletubby, and, well, it used to be a brown Teletubby, but now it just looks like a burnt corpse. And the black Tubby, seeing your confusion, and realizing that, well, you're kind of in the same boat, gives you a brief explanation, explaining that this company was the one that ran the whole Teletubbies thing, and the whole experiment was to give a few people paradise and then starve them. You can think of it as the Teletubby equivalent of the Russian sleep experiment. And to say the least, they didn't want people knowing about that, so they tried hiding it. And part of that was killing anybody who was still alive at that time and was out and about. Which I'll give them credit for. We're, been working well pretty far so far, I mean, if we don't count the still, were alive. They've Laa Laa and Dipsy. I mean, Tinky Winky's still out there, but yeah. Even though these pieces of very damning evidence still exist. And here's the roles that these three played. Yeah, that whole guy who maintains the barrier around the mainland. Yeah, after the whole abandoning thing, pretty much everyone was fired. So yeah, this guy couldn't maintain that said barrier. Or this guy couldn't, do the whole announcer thing. So also he was framed for doing drugs. I guess now, because that good old opening thing. And the brown Tubby, he actually made the food and remotely piloted Nunu. And also, if you're remotely familiar with SLENDYTUBBIES, and you're probably familiar with these three, with their certain aspects. Yeah, it's just the Yeti Tubby, the Shadow Tubby, and the Cave Tubby. I had to find a way to implement them somehow. And now, the only loose end left is Poe, and so far, things have been going to plan for them. Not for Poe, but, And so, since these guys are definitely not making it out alive, they decide to hand them their shotgun with 7 shells in it. Keep that in mind. And, well, the reason why it isn't 8 is because, well, body in the background. And as the Shadow Tubby ends up going back and deciding that if they're going out, they're at least going out on a fun way. Deciding that they both go out by alcohol poisoning. The two getting ready to go out in the most Irish way possible. And so now you're left out there, and you have to walk through all 3 maps while you see small glimpses of Apex Tinky Winky. And then when you finally reach the exit, boom. Tinky Winky appears and you're just approaching. So, you know, natural instinct, shoot. And you better hope that you didn't shoot at any of the little tricks at the beginning. I mean, not the at the whole walk bit. Because this guy, he takes all of those shots to kill. All 7 shots. So, yeah, that whole walk thing, it was just a fake out to make you all panicky and whatnot. And so, Poe walks off, finally reaching the end. Alright, that's all. Hope you had a nice time with me. Goodbye. And also just saying this isn't related to the rot creepypasta thing that I've been doing recently. And also, by the way, the Slenderman rewrite is getting close to completion. Just thought I'd mention that. To say the least, this one's probably the one I did the most development with, and I've been doing for the longest time. As much as Postra whole Jeff the Killer rewrite inspired me to do this whole project, I've had this Slenderman for quite a while. Like, I'm pretty sure a year at this point. Maybe 2. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's enough yapparooning, so... Oh well. Good night, stay classy. Or good morning, depending on what time of the day you're watching this at. Bye-bye.